Madam MC, I think you should call for a big round of applause for the audience. I mean, it's almost 7. And, I mean, you're at it. I'll give you 2 good reasons why you have to stay till the end of this panel. One reason is you try to get out of BKC at this hour. You are anyway going to spend 45 minutes on the road. Might as well spend it enriching ourselves. And the second good reason is that you will be enriched at the end of this panel, because I think we have an extremely experienced and stellar panel over here. Anup has run a bank as well, so it's a 2-in-1. Vijay, Shekhar, Sharma has actually brought digital to Indian finance in such a big fashion. Can we even live without Paytm? Have any of us been able to manage taxi rides or anything without Paytm? So, you know, he's brought so much, and the big challenger on the scene is Geofinance, a combination of a telecom giant and a finance giant. So that's, you know, makes him the most appropriate person. And of course, Sudipta has put together such a wonderful function, so many learnings, and I'm sure all this is already integrated into L&T Finance. So, Sudipta, first of all, thank you very much. I mean, I was here for a better part, and I can tell you it's been a very, very fruitful day of learning. This session kind of tries to put it together as a business case. Ultimately, you can get a lot of intelligence, a lot of learnings from all the sessions, but you have to make a business case for it, right? Cost and benefit have to balance. AI is a huge giant requiring a lot of money. So at every point in time, these gentlemen here have to make the business case. Is it worth the cost, both in terms of effort, in terms of the legal ecosystem that you have to negotiate, and of course in terms of the returns. So straight away, why don't you all make that case? Where have you used AI fruitfully? Give me something very concrete, because not all of us are technically literate. Financially, we claim we are somewhat literate, but I mean, I have my doubts with respect to myself. So in simple terms, Anup, if you can start by saying, give me concrete example where in insurance and banking, you have used it.
So in insurance, for example, we have 2 large sort of problem statements. One is the whole issue about risk, which is the risk of dying early or risk of living long. These are the 2 mortality risks. And we have been able to develop good models around it to be able to assess that. And particularly in insurance, there are, again, when you break it up into 2 things, there is an intent and there is an incidence. Intent is all about fraud, is all about intent. And incidence is the general mortality, that if you live, some people will die, some people will live longer, and all of it. So on the intent bit, where there is fraud, we have been able to bring it, use AI models very, very effectively, and it is showing up in the claims, early claims that comes in within first year. The early claims is defined within 3 years, but within the first year, 80% of the claims come, which largely is about intent and fraud. So that has come down quite sharply for us. The second one is about persistency, which is where it's getting talked about. And if you look at our numbers, outcome numbers, because outcome is what matters, Bagchi English has up. So on that, if you see, there is a consistent improvement, and we are able to work on the models of persistency, and we have been able to bring up the persistency. The third, which is very interesting, is propensity to complain. So there are a set of customers who have high propensity to complain, slash a little bit more agitated set of customers. We have been able to bring that also. So which are the customers which are propensity to complain, so that you escalate it initially upfront, so that we are able to handle them. Very, very concrete examples with clear-cut outcome. So you wanted 3 examples, I gave you 3 examples.
No, most useful. But the last one is intriguing. Do you see the persons who have a proclivity to complain as a problem area? Or do you see the problem in yourself and correct yourself?
No, it is not a problem area. It is the issue that, see, there are certain people who have propensity to complain. What you need to do, ultimately, you have to escalate it faster. Okay, so that you resolve their issues, number one. Number two, we also take it as an input that you proactively. See, every incoming call, every complaint is a defect in the system. That's how one has to see. It's a defect in the system. Either you have not been able to explain, so they're coming back. Either there is a service issue, so they are able to coming back. If you see it as a defect, it is a great feedback loop for us to come. But having said that, if an incident has happened, it is better to escalate quickly and resolve it.
Well, that's clearly, profitable both for the bank and for the customer. Vijay, Shekhar, a similar question to you. I guess you would be using it much more than others since you have, you are a digital native, so to speak.
Thank you.
So give us some examples.
The first and foremost, I'll include the customer care, which is a very simple logic. Every human task can be replaced by machine. This is the philosophy that we're carrying with. And I'm sorry to say, I've not been able to find out one task that cannot be replaced. So customer care was the lowest hanging fruit. We've reduced to 1/3 of people with 4 times more traffic and nearly, surprisingly, customer satisfaction ratios doubling. So it was totally counterintuitive. But in financial system where there is a complexity of agent to understand, the machine agent understands better than replies. You can talk to it in your local language, slang it out, multilingual, da 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 da. I mean, it's actually it is shocking for somebody when I give a demo that let's keep talking to it and swinging the discussions, and the guy continuously captures you and takes you through. So that was very amazing. This is a very practical case, and in my opinion, the customer care agent, call center agents have a finite life left. And when I say finite life, there will be a reason for them to exist, just like newspapers are, but that necessarily does not mean that you need news by newspaper, that kind of slang. So that's very, very clear. Call center agents will be dramatically reduced as a requirement in the industry. What we are experiencing, everybody will inevitably get it. Second is a fraud. I'm very proud of our fraud management system. We have, in a financial industry, 1 paisa is called, on 100 rupees, called 1 bip. Our fraud to sales, meaning when you do $100 of sales, how much of fraud is reported or analyzed or anything else, is less than 1 bip, 0.32 bip. So we're talking about 1/3 of a BIP level of fraud level on a scale which is a couple of $100 billion of payment processing to the merchants.
And what is the legacy ratio?
This is better than what Visa is, that much I know. So Visa and Masters, Visa was doing a research with us and they were like, why the heck you get so much of data? And you just heard somebody said that I needed devices knowledge, the previous panel. So we literally capture, I do agree that it is very awkward for customer to believe that why are you taking so much of data? But with so much of data, you can capture the fraud in a very dramatic way. I'm sure many of these events...
You mean you are asking access to the camera? Is that...
Yeah, no, there was a question that there was an app that was not working because there was a photo album access they were needing, camera access is needing. While I'm not going to say that that was needed or not in the app context, but I'm trying to say with the app capturing the device context, lot fraud can be taken care of. Very simple, I mean, considering you want a sample. Let's say I'm a user sitting in Bombay right now. Let's say if Rampur से कोई phone को capture करता है और एक different operating system पे करता है, तो machine will understand very easily कि ये कैसे हो सकता है कि आप iPhone 16 यूज़ कर रहे थे और अभी जाके आप Android random और रामपुर से यूज़ कर रहे होगे पिछले 2 घंटे में, तो वो बहुत ही आराम से block कर देगा. ऐसे बहुत suave cut to we are able to capture like bips, fraction of bips level. So that is I think fraud is a problem of consumer gullibility, but consumer gullibility is also not a problem for our machine. We took it to next level that even if customer says, yeah, you gave the OTP, so what? OTP is not the world secret. I mean, I understand as a machine that this is not a transaction. So we are able to block the OTP fraud also. Like there is no, you can share the OTP, but we'll not let the transaction happen. I'm just saying it. Machines can do that easily because you can logically understand. If as a human you can say, why did you process this transaction? You understood the OTP was being shared. So the short answer is, yeah, I understand OTP was being shared, so we'll not reject it. But I'm not going to technology structuring, but fraud is a very legit case, and fraud fight will go next level. Like we just saw a demo where the live face, live voice, all sorts of things will come. So I predict in this room another biometric, which will be palm, because thumb and iris are your ID biometrics. Right now, we are working on payments with palm, all because we believe that these are your PII, personal identifier information, and iris, etc. So we'll not touch them, and few more biometrics. Voice, visual, etc. can be faked. Can't this be faked? Obviously, it will be. So it is going through next level of resolutions and so on. So fraud is second, which is very legit. I'm very proud to say we operate Japan's largest payment platform, and our fraud management for FSA in Japan is like a benchmark. I just want to say that. So now the third use case, which is we just heard, is underwriting. Underwriting is a credit collection underwriting. And we've been able to disperse tens of billions of dollars of loans for our partners by helping them underwrite much better collectability, meaning can you collect it or not based on a lot of insights and information. So, three use case.
Okay, thanks for that. That was extremely informative. And fraud, anyway, both of you have referred to that as something that has come down. But anyway, what is the industry standard if it is less than 1 bip for $100? Is there any industry?
Yeah, it's 2 or 3 bips, by the way.
Okay, so that's much better. Yes, go ahead, Kusal. I would expect that Geofinance is, as the aggressor, has done a lot of new cases of use of technology.
Well, yes, we are certainly working on it. The obvious one, as Anup and VSS said, is the customer service area. So we have already launched a couple of bots, a voice bot and a chat bot. It's called Dia, incidentally, in line with our logo, the Geo logo, which does some of the things that we discussed earlier, all kinds of customer queries on statement of accounts, interest rates, loan statements, and the like for customers. The interesting part is that if there's any query which is not answered, the bot has the ability to allocate a reference number to the customer so that he or she can come back and code that
to a human
reference. Yes.
Okay, yes.
The most exciting part where we're really employing AI is the classic question of Philip Kotler, right? Right product at the right time. So in a world where loans are rapidly getting commoditized, and unlike the situation where when we grew up or when our parents grew up, the number of service providers or issuers of loans is huge. And the customer has many, many options. I think the key to success is to offer the loan at the time, real time, when the customer really needs it. It's also called hyper-personalization. So that's what we're really working on, and the work is progressing very well.
Sorry, what is it called?
Hyper-personalization. So that's what we are really aiming for, and we are progressing quite well.
So basically able to sell the right product to the right person, and the rate of success is very high.
At the right time, that's key.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. Please go ahead. Sudipta, any one or more cases?
Yeah, actually we have multiple cases because I believe that we are one of the very first organizations which created a position called Chief AI and Data Officer. Normally have Chief Data Officer or Chief Data Scientist. We said we want to create Chief AI and Data Officer. And what we have told our teams is that any problem, first look at whether there is an applicability of AI to this problem. It can be a small problem, it can be a difficult problem. I'll talk about a very easy problem. On face of it sounds very difficult, but an easy solution. For example, we are one of the largest microfinance financiers in the country. Now, these women come for group meetings. How do you record attendance, foolproof? Right? Now, the fact is that the sales wala, he can just tick, 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 tick. Even if you give him a mobile point radio button, he will put the radio button. 6 women have not come, 2 women have not come among 6, but we will get 6. Now, what we said was it's simple. Take a photograph. We took the photograph, the field level officer takes a photograph. We upload the photograph. It goes back to their KYCs, picks up their KYC photographs of the women, comes and matches with the photograph and marks auto attendance. Very simple application of image processing based AI. We have just launched a Gen AI based tool for a home loan chatbot, which we call Kai, Knowledgeable AI. We demoed it earlier. Another simple use case for which we have filed the first patent, which we call the Human Lifestyle Index. Again, for microloan against property customers, when we go and say, for example, microloan means you lend against a property in small ticket sizes. Now, how do you know the condition of the property? So again, what we tell our sales guys is to go and take a photograph, one outside, one inside. Then what the system does is that, and we use Google's Gemini algorithm to do it, it analyzes the photograph, tells it whether it's a kacha house, pakka house, exposed wiring, non-exposed wiring, whether there's a TV inside the house, refrigerator inside the house, fan inside the house, whether the house has exposed brickwork, non-exposed brickwork. It tells us a complete matrices of analysis of the house, computes a standard of living and a standard of dwelling index, and it goes into the business rules engine. So, and the major use of AI we have done is Cyclops, which is our three-dimensional risk engine, which AI, we believe, analyzes alternate data much better than anything else. Bureau data is a lot of static, models can analyze it. Alternate data, you really require computing power to analyze. So Cyclops, which was built in 4 months flat by our teams, uses AI at its core. So these are the ways, we use AI. But I will have to tell you one anecdote. Personally, in my personal life, I also use AI quite a bit. Right? For example, I'll tell you a simple use case and how powerful AI has become. My daughter I was getting down from a plane. I was coming from Delhi. My daughter sends me a maths problem, 3 maths problem on my WhatsApp, saying that, Papa, iska answer kya hai? So while I was on the jet bridge, I took a photograph of that, put it in ChatGPT 4.0. I put the photograph on ChatGPT 4.0. Before I was out of the jet bridge, the entire solution was there. I clicked it and sent it to my daughter. My daughter is thinking that dad is a genius, but
Thank you very much for that tip.
but frankly, so see, this is what it does, right? This is how powerful the technology is. And that's why, the germ of the idea is to do this to ignite a million thoughts.
Okay. Well, this is most impressive. Now let me come to the doubts that I have about the problems that you may encounter. First, of course, is what the previous panel discussed. Privacy. To what extent, Anup, you are able to erase data leakage? Do you come across, and now the DPDP Act is not yet, it's not yet become that applicable. We are waiting for the date on which it will be signed off. Do you think that will mean a lot of cost and a lot of trouble? Privacy, how do you tackle this problem?
No, I think first let us think of this whole issue. There are 2 large applications. One relating to compute, where you are computing things like maths problem, etc. They are computation problems. And the second one are judgmental problems, cognitive problems. If you see, machines are very, 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 very good at computation, and they are not so good at cognitive problems. Human mind is much better in the
AI
computing.
is supposed to be, isn't it?
So now the moment it starts to transcends into the cognitive thing, then it starts to make patterns, it starts to make sense of the sequencing.
Make judgments.
And it starts to make judgment, and that is where hallucination, all these issues, basically data training and all of it, comes under the cognition part. And thus, the part of the data in it, if it is a closed loop data which is internal, which is small language models, generally the accuracy will be very good. So the other thing I would want to just put the framework is, what is the inference that you want, multiplied by what is the degree of confidence on the inference. So quality of inference, degree of confidence on the inference. And if you put that, then you will see that if it is a small language problem like bots, for example, where it is working on a particular set of data, you will see that the accuracy levels are very good. You don't have to go outside, there is no issue of privacy, etc. The moment you start to get into the cognitive area where lots of judgments and lots of data points and which is on the generative AI bit, more on generative AI bit, you will start to see that you require data from all over the place. And that is where sometimes you cross the LOC. That is where maximum amount of crossing of LOCs are happening. There you have to really ring fence the data. If you don't ring fence the data, the tendency is to crawl all over and then get into the risk of your internal data also getting exposed to external world. If you don't mask the data, that is where it is very, very important that when you build models and when you are training the thing on your data set, you have to make sure that the model doesn't crawl over and then you ring fence it. And, but it is happening. I don't think it is such a big issue at this point of time. I think the issues are quite basic on the data privacy as to what kind of data you are taking, how are you using, what are you training. And now the DPDP Act will come, so that will put very onerous conditions on all of us. And in a way it is good because ultimately who owns the data is a real question. And I think it is our data we own. And then if somebody shares, they have to just
You
take
don't
it.
own, right? It is the
We don't
consumer
know.
who
No,
owns,
no, as a person,
and
I
you are
own
the
my data.
fiduciary.
No, as a person, I own my data.
Okay.
If I give my data to you, then what part of my data you own, or you can use it to my benefit, or you take out the PIA and you can use it, certain data fields for larger inferences and making models is a question that is evolving already. It will evolve further. But it is a journey, but I think it's not an unsolvable problem. It's not an unsolvable problem. It is beyond the realms of AI. Actually, this data privacy, it has got linked with AI, but it is all over the place. I mean, you can leak data.
No, certainly, but it just becomes a little more.
It is because of the nature of this beast, because it can crawl all over, and if you are not careful and if you have not built walls around it, because it requires lots of data, particularly on the generative AI bit. If you are putting cognition there, it just requires lots of data for pattern recognition, and it can go all over the place to get your data. And so if you are not careful, it will cross over and lead to loss of privacy. That is really the crux of the matter.
Yeah. No, I very much fear because as a society, we have not put barriers or even educated our customers. I mean, it started off during COVID, but it continues. There were so many restaurants who asked you to give your cell phone number to enter. I mean, I would panic. Should you not go into the restaurant itself? You're giving it to some lay person. So many buildings.
That has
ask
nothing
you.
to do with
So,
AI, by the
no,
way.
No. What I'm saying is all these can be areas where it can leak. So literacy is another question. Anyway, let me first stick to this DPDP Act. Vijay Shekhar, what about a company like yours? Do you fear that at that time the cost benefit will go down when DPDP Act comes in? Will you still be able to use all the digital footprint you gather and sell appropriate products, or will costs increase for the company?
First of all, I just want to say this in this room. We shouldn't bother about as much of privacy issue as much the job issue.
My job issue was my third question.
I mean it in this room. The machines have got trained, dot. Let me say this. You put any rules and regulation now, thank you, but everything is done. To a level that it is so sophisticated that a PhD student's answers are available. Literally in 1 year time period, 2026 is the shortest time period that we are trying to gauge when a compounding knowledge will be in the machine. Now, what training are we talking? And what kind of data privacy are we talking in EU or India, the US data? So internet generated enough data for us to get trained and so on. So first of all, this data privacy intersection AI is not the problem. Usage of DPDT, etc. data for a transaction is a separate topic, that I face scanned, my attendance came, is this system purging? There is nothing AI about it as a data usage. The machine which is predicting this is trained. It's like chip has got made. Now you don't need, now the usage is a topic. So DPDP will be useful for the usage context, but the machine is ready. So I'm trying to say that the debate on data and privacy is overrated in the AI context grossly. It's not even a problem or issue. Why? Because as a teacher, if you're teaching a student in a classroom, what have those guys learned? Is this whose proprietary data it is? That kind of thing has happened now. Actually, this has happened. The compounding knowledge of the AI machines is bigger than compounding knowledge in this room already. So I'm sorry to say this, that you block the data access, there also nothing, world is falling apart of the AI. The rocket is out. It has got launched. So that's number one point. And number 2 point.
You're making me really scared.
No, the problem is that once the computer came, a lot of bankers thought my job will go. You remember the ATM on job? The world didn't fall apart like that. oh, the aircraft have come, the lift theory, I'm sure you've learned, autonomous cars, all these things are overrated. You have to understand that society has to move on with this tsunami that has got inherited inside. You can't say, I will stop usage of computers. You will not Europe. You will rather ride the wave. Why were you talking about, I mean, I'm not saying that data privacy is an obligation for an individual. As far as the AI context, data privacy is concerned, that wave are two different routes.
No, that may be, but as an organization, do you think that privacy will increase your costs?
Privacy is an inherent individual obligation which should be protected.
It is an institutional obligation. It is an individual right.
All compliances increase the cost. Every compliance increases the cost of the service to a customer by a few points, and that is the global rule. You can put as many rules, regulations. That is why DOGE, you know what I'm trying to say? So that's not a question whether it will increase the cost or not. Will it increase the cost to a dramatic high level? No. Will it increase the compliance to? Yes. You know, the EU had this data privacy rule under which it fined the gatekeepers, including Meta, including, I think Google also got fined. Does it mean the EU services are broken? To an extent, compliance cost, the system has got used to, over the period, you will say, I accept, buzz off, I accept all. तो फिर वो consent दिखा देंगे, सर ये expert consent दिया था. तो वो ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है दुनिया में जो कि, मतलब, my point is, these are controls that are needed, but it will increase the cost of compliance, which is good. It should be there. I'm not trying to even say that there will be dramatic, but AI context, we are done. This is not a more discussion. Okay. There was a question that we don't have answer. The panel was not ready to accept the answer. There was an answer in the room. The answer was that the answer is there is no bias question. How does your kid get studied? The Californian kid and New York kid.
There is no bias? Sorry?
No. Classroom is a bias room. Why are we not talking about classroom bias right now? The teaching in a different class of classes is a bias. So machine is got trained. Machine is a human mind with a capability that it can bounce back the answer. If you train it in a particular model, it will be like that. What kind of trick question is that? What kind of bias are we talking? Are you not biased in a particular way? Am I not biased in a particular way? So it is a machine. It's got bias. You can literally call the machine to say, I want you to answer like Mr. dash dash dash. So it'll start sounding like that. You've seen that. So all these questions of data, bias, or...
No, bias is another question altogether. We will come to bias in a minute.
I'm trying to say these are the questions which are not the questions. I'm rather saying, what kind of question are we talking?
No, Vijay.
You have to
Vijay,
we have to change the orbit of question. We have to change the orbit of the question. And I mean it, guys. I genuinely mean it. If programming can be done by a machine, I'm not kidding this. Every one of us thought different tiers of things, okay?
I'm not quite convinced that bias is not a question.
No.
My question was not on
come
bias.
On, left media,
My
right media bias. यार आपसे तो नहीं पूछेंगे ना. मतलब आप तो media वाले हो. You know what I'm trying to say.
I think
come on, a TV channel is a bias. What kind of machine will not be biased?
But
वो तो जिससे सीखेगा वैसे ही बोलेगा ना वो.
There is no question that the TV channels don't have a bias.
Very good.
That is not the point. But the day you are hit by a court case on bias.
I mean, I'm just going to be telling you, a neutral person. There is nothing called neutral. pH 7 कुछ होता नहीं है. I mean, you know what I'm saying. There is alkaline, there is a base, there is acid. तो ये question ही inherently मेरी नज़र में wrong है. ये क्या मतलब है bias होता है? हवा आती है, आएगी, कभी ज़्यादा आएगी, कभी कम आएगी, कभी इधर आएगी, उधर आएगी. इसका भी system ऐसा जवाब देगा, कभी ऐसा देगा. Hallucination is a bigger problem. AI has a hallucination problem, not a bias problem.
मेरा question तो था about privacy. ये bias बीच में कहाँ से आ गया?
No, but it's a good
My
segue.
question was,
This
my
is
answer. Okay,
a
let's
classic problem a TV anchor
No
faces.
problem, no. Privacy.
You ask a question, the panelist gives himself another question and answers that question. Excellent, Vijay.
So, with your permission.
Standard television panelist.
Machines. I tell you, machines. Uncontrolled machines. This is the future.
You have won the day, like any
But
TV
maybe
panelist. Okay.
Kusal can.
No,
Latha, with your
my
permission.
point is that if the DPDP Act comes, is there a problem in terms of the ability to service, or does it make technology much more expensive?
Much more नहीं होएगा. थोड़ा सा compliance cost होगा.
Okay, your take?
Yeah, Latha, the point is that as society evolves, customer expectations go up and some things become hygiene. I would say that data privacy has today become hygiene, and it's part of customer expectation. It's built into the proposition that the customer expects. So it has to be built into your offering if you want to compete. And therefore, cost cannot be looked at on a standalone basis. Cost will lead to revenue. And as long as you can gain adequate market share by meeting the customer expectation, it is worth it. So the summary of the answer is, yes, there will be some increase in cost, but I would like to believe that it's very much worth it. And in a scenario where customer expects data privacy, if you can provide that and also help in educating customers about safeguarding their data, I think your proposition becomes more valuable. And what do I mean by educating customers? And just the example that you gave a while back, right? I mean, most people would hesitate to give their phone numbers at a restaurant, but would happily put their date of birth on Facebook so that their 2,500 friends can wish them happy birthday, right? Is it a good idea? Probably not. So those are things that need to be driven, and customers can be educated, and customers would see the value in that overall proposition.
No, for me, yeah, rather more than giving your personal data on any of the social media platforms, what I dread most is this I accept. Sometimes you're in such a hurry to get something, you keep on clicking I accept, and it's racing through my head. My God, I'm writing I accept.
हमें ये क्वेश्चन मैम से पूछना चाहिए. मैम, how many I accept pop-up आप reject करते हो? क्योंकि as a legal expert, are you bothered about opening a I accept panel and not say no to it? Because I think practically, very
I want
rare.
the law against this
I met
I
a customer
accept.
here.
So,
I will request the RBI Innovation Hub to work on reducing this I accept boxes that prop up. It really scares me. But anyway, you know, Sudipta, since you raised that issue, let me ask another question. You said that you're able to do a lot of better due diligence because, you know, the AI
lot of
tool
better,
is
sorry?
due diligence
Better due diligence.
while giving a loan. Now, the strange part is that just in the last 2 quarters, we have had a record rise in unsecured loan defaults. I mean, if AI has come of age, why is it that unsecured loans, I can understand MFI, probably at that level, you are still, there is more human handling. But I don't want to name names. I know of one bank which had 17% higher unsecured loans and another one which had 30% higher unsecured loans. Their overall NPA was not high, but within that, the unsecured portion showed a higher NPA, which means AI has not arrived of age in terms of identifying,
so
in
Latha,
terms of due diligence.
Yeah, let me take that. I think no Indian lender is using AI to underwrite in a meaningful way. First, I think reality. The second thing is that the current underwriting practices, and yesterday we had our investor day where I went on stage and told that current underwriting is dead. The current underwriting practices is go and take the income of a customer, static underwriting. This I call static underwriting. Go to the bureau, look at its behavior for the last 6 to 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever you want to, and then underwrite. But that is all post-facto data. The customer is exhibiting continuous behavior, which again comes to that data question again. The data is available. Customers, you see, this Diwali month we have up close to 800 million UPI transactions, right? Look at the amount of the customer information and the customer data is flowing through the system. Similarly, there are lots of, for example, again, you might talk about whether, you know, privacy, etc. But if you use a Zomato app or a Swiggy app, Zomato और Swiggy को पता है कि आप क्या खाते हो, क्या order करते हो, कहाँ रहते हो, right? But the fact is that to get the digital dividend, you have to give a bit of your privacy. Otherwise, your digital dividend won't come. Now, if you are very close digitally, you will not be able to use those apps. Gen Z has no problem with any data privacy issues. It is only in the mind of Gen X and Gen Yers. आप नीचे जाओगे, किसी को कोई problem नहीं है. उसको सब कुछ खोल के दे देता है, क्योंकि because they want the experience. They don't want anything else. They want the experience. उसके लिए थोड़ा data देना है, तो they are willing to compromise with it. So coming to the fact that no sort of bank or financial institution is using AI in a meaningful way, still now. But this will change. This will change in the next 24 to 36 months, this will change. Because one of the things that we realized, and I realized it over the last 3 years, that the power of alternate data, which we call traditional, the new age data vis-a-vis the traditional data or the bureau data. And our Chief AI and Data Officer coined a term called RODI, Return on Data Investment. We figured out that RODI on alternate data is order of magnitude different in finding out defaults than your traditional underwriting algorithms. Right? And so that is why we built this engine which now uses AI to consume this alternate data and then come up with meaningful insights. So the reason personal loans delinquencies are higher is because we have been following the traditional method. We have been not following AI, or we have not been using AI as a supplement to traditional methods. I'm not saying traditional methods are bad. Traditional methods is the base of the pizza. The topping is the new methods powered by AI.
You know, I've heard a lot of this on television and on ground events about this great alternative data available, digital footprint. But then the reality is unsecured loans went up, defaults went up. If it was so damn good, and we have the best over here, then explain to me why did unsecured loans
No one used it, Latha. No one used it. Just scratching the surface on it.
Without using anything, you are singing praise of something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just come in there.
So, no, see the fact...
I'm not convinced. When
no
I saw the, when I see the default
okay,
data, I'm not convinced
let me
that
give you,
something
let me give you a
great is coming up.
statistic. Let me give you a statistic which we have put together in our investor presentation yesterday. We operationalized our three-dimensional AI-based underwriting engine in the month of July, beta. Right now, 55% of our two-wheeler loans go through it. And we are using alternate data almost from 8 sources. Our through-the-door net bounce is 60% lower than our traditional algorithms. So it works.
No, I'm very happy if it works, but credit card companies in the latest results season announced higher defaults. So I am not convinced till I see that falling in the Q4, in the Q2 results.
नहीं
I'm not
मैम
making it up.
आपको
Numbers are there.
आपको next 24 से 36 महीने में दिखेगा, immediately दिखेगा नहीं. Because you will see it in the next 24 to 36 months, the impact of all this, because this is a process. It is not a switch you turn on. It's a portfolio building exercise.
No, I will be very delighted if that happens.
I'll just come back to your point.
I'm an investor more than anything else.
Latha, I'll just come back to the
delighted.
point.
Yeah.
I'll come back to the previous point. So there are two things, as I said.
No,
Compute.
can you, I mean,
compute.
are you convinced that, the amount of data plumbing that's now available can reduce defaults, can improve diligence to that level? I mean, it's still a dream, right? It is something, as you say, after 24 months.
No, two
right
things.
now we have not
I'll
reached
respond
there.
to that only. There are two parts to it. One is a pure compute part. One is a judgment part. When there is judgment part, no amount of data will exactly make it n equal to 1.
Okay.
That all defaults will go away. We'll be able to pick up, because finally it is a judgment issue. And whenever there is a judgment issue, there will be an element of error and fragility in the data because it is forward-looking. If it is compute, you can be n equal to 1. So first is that I don't think we should all assume that it will go away. What will happen is creation of alpha over people who are using it and people who are not using it. And so you will see that in general, it's not that defaults will go away, but people who are using it, they will have a better experience than people not using it. And what I have seen over last many decades, people who use this over a period of time, every year if you have 1.5–2% benefit over 20 years, it translates into 60–70% benefit. That is what is going to happen. And if the things are faster, this gap may widen to 2x, 3x. So you will see, and you have seen, even without AI, without this, there are banks who run at a very low delinquency for similar types of businesses than other banks who have not.
Yes.
Without AI. Now with AI, with more compute power, with more pattern recognition, you will make it better. So overall it will come down, is my sense. And within that, the user and non-user, have and have-nots will also develop. And that is a more practical way of thinking about it, a more pragmatic way of thinking about it. As far as compute is concerned, you will have n equal to 1. Computation, it will be fast. Actual computations will be faster. You can online fraud monitoring, online stuff, you can do it. But can you eliminate? You can't eliminate, but it will be much faster because if you compute fast, generally you can bring down the intensity and the incidences. No, that is a way to think about it, not as an average, but as a distribution. I think things will become better.
I am almost a devotee of technology to that extent. I'm absolutely enthralled by Digi Yatra. I mean, look at the amount of time we had when that guy was looking at your bloody Aadhaar card, looking at your face, looking at your ticket, and literally spending 3, 4, 5 minutes per passenger. Now you just walk through. So, I mean, I'm absolutely enthralled by the kind of advantages and smooth experience it offers for the customer. But now I'm talking about another angle altogether. In terms of due diligence, we don't seem to have arrived just yet. It does look like,
It is much better. Digi Yatra is also due diligence.
Exactly.
Digi
Exactly
Yatra is due
That's
diligence.
why I brought it into the...
So Digi Yatra is due diligence. Your upload of documents and using OCR to do it is due diligence. Certainly it is faster. To give concrete example,
Speed is
to give
definitely
concrete
there.
example, life insurance policies, normally you will never assume that on same day issuances will happen. 60% same day issuances is happening. You think without diligence, without KYC, one could have done 60%. It's not possible. It was not possible 15 years back. It is possible now because all the elements of KYC are digitized. And if you organize it well, you can do it.
No, I accept speed, I accept customer satisfaction, efficiency. All these are gains that all
Only
of us
judgment you are not
experience.
accepting.
I'm only worried whether due diligence, have you all...
Judgment
an
or
NPA
due
creation,
diligence?
have you all reached that stage? Or have we, as a community...
Due diligence are of two kinds. One is KYC due diligence, which is a compute issue, largely. And credit, which is a forward-looking judgment issue.
Okay.
On the compute issue, I think we are there. That is why you have all
Point
kinds
taken.
of online KYC happening. On the judgment issue, obviously it's a journey. It is becoming better, certainly. Pre-Sybil, post-Sybil. Usage of data, you see how it has happened. Okay, so judgment, so I would say in my mind, we should think what are compute areas, what are cognitive areas. Compute areas have moved very fast. Cognitive areas, it has to build. Also, the variables are also non-stationary, by the way. They are not stationary variables.
No,
So
they are
in a
dynamic.
non-stationary variables, creating judgment models is also not that easy, but it is improving.
Kushal, you wanted to add something on improvement of diligence?
Yeah, so I was just
Of
talking
asset
about the
quality
point.
in general?
I was just talking about the point that Sudipta was responding to. Your earlier question on unsecured loans. See, as Anup said, AI can generate an alpha, right? It can make your horse run faster. But at no point will your horse turn into a cheetah because you're employing AI. What do I mean by that? See, the unsecured loans industry is about 35 years old, and some of us here have spent the last 30 years in this industry, right? Some basics don't change. If you lend low-ticket loans, for example, loans of, say, 50,000 rupees, and on top of that, you lend at high interest rates, 20% plus, your defaults will happen. Very simple. It's basic underwriting, right? Who takes a low-ticket loan? Somebody who doesn't have cash.
Who's desperate.
Why would anybody borrow at 20% plus? Because nobody else is giving it to him at normal prime rates, 14, 15, 12, 13, 14%, right? So you're lending to a borrower who's strapped for cash and who's inherently risky. AI won't turn that around.
Definitionally default.
At best, you can have a slightly better selection of good-bad odds ratio, which is the alpha that Anup is talking about. But if your base is wrong, you won't get away with it. And that has remained true over the last 30 years. That is what is happening today in some pockets of the unsecured loans industry.
Yeah, I guess some of it would be explained because there the business case itself is that the few who pay or the few EMIs I get, I'm already recovering my principal. Maybe that's the logic on which it works. Vijay, you want to add to the fact that we will see improved asset quality, or are you already seeing improved asset quality?
It's a given theory. I mean, all of us are convinced, and something is already happening in LT Finance. There is no doubt about it that the companies will lead with a mission that, let's say, this is an ulterior statement, this is not what will happen, that there will CRO, Chief Risk Officer, could be a machine. I'm not saying that it is an inevitability, but I'm trying to say that this is the direction it is headed for. Obviously, it's like an autopilot. You will have a pilot still. You will still have a CRO as a human, but the machine will be able to do significant better job, and beyond the human intentions of making a decision, the machine will do a pretty decent job. It is how the rest of the work works. I mean, the aircrafts land because machines are continuously.
It's a bit scary, you know. There is
By the
that
way,
other conference which people
Vijay,
are having to hack
this is the
it.
second time someone said this on stage today. In morning when Kunal made his 10 predictions for post-AI world, one of his slides was your CRO will be a machine.
Because compute and pattern recognition, etc., is so much so better.
Yeah, compounding knowledge of
Yeah, so
credit
much so better. Yeah,
will be a better knowledge than an individual.
And it doesn't get tired. It can do 24/7.
Okay, so now let us come to the point that you raised, Vijay, from the start, that we are going to see much fewer people. Is it going to become a human issue that financial sector as a whole will employ fewer people?
Any sector, including financial sector, will employ fraction of people that are there. I account for 2/3 people won't be required, like less than 1/3.
Okay, that's a little scary in terms of the societal problems it might generate. Anup, you agree to this, that we're going to see a drastic fall in the employment rates? Or is it that you will continue to employ, but just service a lot more?
No, I think it will morph. I think it will morph. In banking, if you see in the last 32 years, what has happened is the people who are sitting in tellers, they are doing other jobs. So I think it will morph. I think the skilling that will be required will be different. I think the monotonous, redundant, similar kind of jobs, they will get replaced by machines. And other kinds of jobs will certainly come up. And there is a lot of human judgment, human relationship type of jobs which are slightly harder to replace. So my sense is it will not go away, it will morph. And world has seen that every time a wave has come, and every time they have seen that there is an extinction happening, extinction doesn't happen. It morphs into something else. So it will morph.
Okay.
I could just give you a hint here. Index fund or actively managed fund is an intent to tell you that even the people like us will start buying machine-generated outcomes and will be happy with that. And we will not seek a delta or alpha on that, which effectively means for the amount of wealth that we are managing today versus amount of wealth that was being managed, number of people did not proportionately grow, while you needed a lot more analysts and a lot more this. I can even say this, that further, double of asset managed, you will need half of the analysts.
Okay. No, certainly, that's true, but it's a little scary as a societal outcome. Neelkant was saying just a few hours ago when he was speaking that even IT companies are not going to get as much business because more can be generated by the same number of people, so they employ less. These were the two largest employing sectors, BFSI and IT. So if it's going to employ less, I'm a little worried about
But Latha, can I
generations
have my
coming out.
See, I grew up in West Bengal, where in my growing up years, we used to have frequent months saying that bank computerization ho raha hai. But the fact is that, look at the amount of jobs that finally computers have created.
Exactly.
And I read a quote somewhere, I forgot who did the quote, saying that, probably we are too scared of change, but every time change has come, when, steam came in, people say that all horsemen will go out of, or carts will go out of business. But steam created more jobs than we could imagine. Similarly, computers created more jobs than we can imagine, right? Similarly, I do believe that the same will play out here. Just we do not have the imagination to think about the jobs it will create.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think it's too early to paint a rise of the machines and Skynet kind of scenario. Society evolves, and as society evolves, the kind of jobs that we see in future cannot be imagined today. For example, all 4 or 5 of us sitting here, the jobs that we do were probably not really happening in, say, 30 or 40 years ago. So society will evolve, economy will take a different shape, and new jobs will come up.
Well, we do hope so for the sake of all our children and succeeding generations. Just a final thought on, what do you think is the problem of hallucination? After all, AI hallucination seems to be, a big issue. Do you think that we have to wait for these results to come? It's not as if it's round the corner. Maybe it is not even 24 months away. The chart that Neelkant drew, he saw the best benefits coming probably 10 years from now. What's your sense?
So hallucination is a very sort of simply put, if my mind is trained on something and you force me to give inference on something else when my mind is not trained and I am a confident person, I will just make it up and hallucinate. Same thing happens on the machine. You train it on a particular thing and you force them to give inference on something else and they are confident. and they just do it. It will look logically right, but they'll be patently hallucinating.
No, I
So
just
in
want
the
to know-
human mind, it is delusion, it is hallucination. See, finally, if we say AI, machine learning, Gen AI, they're just trying to mimic human mind
Yes.
at this point of time and becoming better because the compute power is more, processing power is more, it's becoming better. So hallucination has happened by human mind for long. Machines, it is much more prone to hallucination because of the very high compute power, and they will just hallucinate if they are not trained on that data.
Okay, Vijay, I just want to ask you, this fascinating world that all of you all are drawing up, where, due diligence will be much better, where customers, satisfaction is going to be much higher. How far are we away from it?
This is, let's say, smartphone revolution in 2010-11, that kind of time. So we are like at least 5-7 years away when the practicality will come. That is why somebody can say material benefit will show up after 10 years. So if you are in 3G launch stage of 2011 and you've seen the smartphone device and you're like, whoa, this is going to be in every pocket. The computer in every pocket will revolutionize the world. You saw what happened, but we are at a 2011 and 12.
Okay, that's not very far. We are 1 minute above time. Just one more question. Are we into a complete branchless financial system, or do you think branches will be needed?
No, we are not in a branchless financial system.
Okay, all right. You do want to agree or disagree?
No, completely agree. I think the requirement today is that of a phygital system. You have to have a physical infrastructure as well as digital infrastructure. That's what customers want. And the engagement that we see in bank branches today is very significant, in addition to the digital engagement that we see, not in lieu of.
So we are still in the digital world. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. You'll have drawn up a fascinating world. And let's meet after 24 months, 36 months, and probably 10 years to see whether we are living in a very different world. I think 10 years, I take your point. We'll be in a very different world.
Thank you.
Can we have some
We
questions?
have 2 minutes up.
Yeah.
At your own risk, you all can ask questions. The more questions you ask, the faster you'll get home, because traffic will be less in BKC.
Thank you very much for the amazing panel discussion that we had. It was about customer engagement, but we touched upon a lot of topics, including data privacy. And yes, there was quite a lengthy discussion on it, but I do want to touch upon one point, and as industry leaders, right, this is a question for all four of you. Yes, data privacy is necessary for an individual. Yes, you guys need the data to take the decisions that you do. Without the data that you capture through apps, a lot of your decisioning models will collapse. But at the same time, right, are you willing to ensure that the data that you take is used only for those specific decision making and not used to create biases against your customers and to make more profit for you guys at the cost of the customer? That's a question for all four of you. Thank you.
I mean, can you do it? Answer is yes. Will companies do it? Maybe. Will some companies not do it? For sure.
I think the test for that will
depends on
be when one of them is taken to court, and then we will know how things pan out.
I don't have to tell you. And many of you know, you switch off the phone when you don't want the location to be tracked. Any of you? I just want to tell you that offline it keeps the data and it syncs up online. So maybe you did not even use the GPS, but Android carries that. So now, why are we talking this kind of trick question? Is that a trick question?
Hi.
We'll take one more, and then in the interest of the others, we will have to let go. Sir,
Hi, good evening. My name is Prithvish. Very interesting session. Just one question. What do you all think when the guardrails of an AI model is going to be monitored, set up and monitored rather, by AI itself? I mean, what challenges do you foresee and mitigants, please?
Guardrail to avoid what?
Guardrails of any AI model. I mean, you need to have
Guardrail
boundaries.
to avoid what? Like trains don't get in the town is a guardrail. Like accidents don't happen is a guardrail. What is the AI guardrail going to be used for?
I mean, I would say...
He's talking about an AI regulatory authority.
Huh?
AI regulatory authority or something like that.
For the anticipated and the unanticipated challenges or misuse of AI, we need guardrails. Now, will those guardrails be AI generated and managed?
No. The computers can be utilized to do many things, and none of the guardrails to misuse the guns were used. Guns can protect, guns can kill. The guardrails are licenses. The AI machines will be the powerhouse that people own. They will use them for benefit or for against. That will happen. I mean, nuclear fusion and fission, the process that I'm quoting,
Right.
are like, what kind of guardrails are you putting? So, I mean, these guardrails are placebo, make yourself feel good kind of things that are done to give world comfort. But what kind of guardrail are we talking about?
Thanks for the frank answer. Thanks.
Yeah.
There's just one question here. Do you make any machine to fail? Any AI machine? Yes or no?
Say again?
Would you make a machine, AI machine, to fail or no?
Fail?
Yeah.
Why would
So nobody makes a machine to fail.
Human fail.
That is the same answer that is the same answer for your question about why so many bank customers are defaulting. It is not that the AI is not giving you a right result. AI is always giving you a good result. But why are you taking the risks and giving out so much to so many customers which
Well,
are
that's what
defaulting?
he answered. That,
It is not. I'll tell you why
the design.
it was not answered. The answer is because when you take a business decision, a businessman can even give out a loan on a loss.
Yeah, that's right.
Loss-making
Fair
way.
Yeah,
So
obviously.
there may be, when he's making a decision on any kind of default, he's not intently going on default.
Yeah,
Bang
to
on,
some extent-
everybody agrees.
But he's not making intention, he's not financing intentionally.
The cars don't accident,
He's
the driver
still
accident.
financing.
Look,
Any,
cars.
any financer still finances because he still has the due diligence.
I
case.
think we should take this.
He has the due diligence.
Yeah. Can we take this off
Yes.
stage? Thank
Okay,
you very
fine,
much.
fine.
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much. Thank you very much.
Fascinating.